they bought Voyager too.
We don't have a very far
How are you?
That's the guest book, and I don't know what else.
ready, Danny? Tom, it's been a pleasure serving with you. I don't know what we're going to do without you. My stage skills have improved with your old jokes, and it's going to be really something being on campus without you. Don't forget where we are, and if you ever go sailing out in the bay, don't forget where I am. Nice seeing you, Tom. See you soon.
The last party message.
We're on.
Are we?
Yeah. Who? Remember when Tony Carson went? Oh no, there's more. I'm coming undone, Dr. Wood. This is all for you. What can I say?
Get dressed, you know, I mean.
I'm getting undressed for you.
Dressed, even if you're bare.
Am I dressed now?
Shoulders back, Jack. Shoulders back.
Okay.
I'd like
Who on Johnny Carson started crying when he was leaving? Why do you have to leave when Johnny? No.
Yeah, Bette Midler did.
No, it wasn't like Steve Martin. He like leaned over the desk and said, "Don't go."
Is this recording?
Yes, it's recording. Anyways, I'm speechless when it comes to goodbyes, as you should know. I'll give it to Ellen.
Ellen will. If you give it to Ellen, she'll sing.
Oh, we're really sorry to see you go.
Bye.
Ever tell Tom to bye. He's going to say, what are they up to? He's always wondering what we were up to, right?
Right.
Right,
Tom,
and it's been a few years.
we're back on team again, Evelyn and
Oh,
myself.
yes. Listen, without us, it's a wonder the college survived, right?
That's right.
That's right.
So we hope you'll have a happy, fruitful.
Tom, you'll have a
Retirement.
very, very busy life, except you're not going to be sitting home. I know you.
These are from your two friends, Evelyn and
Sister Gregory. Have you forgotten your name?
goodbye.
Out in the lobby, come on in and have a seat. Thank you. Someone get Earl Roddy's attention out there and have him come in. Please take your seats. Earl, we're going to start now. You can have a seat. Did someone find a seat for Dr. Wood?
He didn't pay.
Dr. Wood, could you have a seat, please? It's with great pleasure that I welcome you here tonight to honor someone who is near and dear to us, Dr. Tom Wood, in these his retirement festivities. Not long ago, a few months ago, Dr. Wood and I went to a retirement luncheon for some local politicians, and during those obligatory speeches, we began passing notes back and forth. And on one of those notes, Tom wrote, "You now know what a retirement dinner shouldn't be like." Tonight won't be like that, Tom, I promise you. And I think it's going to be a lot of fun, and if someone just makes sure he stays in his seat, he has a tendency to jump up and want to say something in the middle of what's going on. I would like to ask Sister Gregory Natty to come forward. And on her way, I would like to recognize a few folks, if you'll just bear with me for a moment, that rarely get recognition, but who in large measure are responsible for what is going on here tonight, and is responsible for keeping Tom Wood employed for these many years. If you would just please stand and we recognize our Board of Trustees, please. Sister Antoine Marie Boyer, are you here, sister? Please stand, thank you. If you look Janet, take Janet. You can hold your applause to the end, we'll move right along, thank you. Is Vic Bennett here? Where is he?
He's over there.
Hi, Vic. Our Vice Chair, Mr. Jack Blumenthal. Sister Saline Cripps. I don't know if Sister Saline, she couldn't make it tonight. Mr. James Darling, Jim. Ms. Marilyn Ginsberg. Mr. David Mead. Dr. William Petak, the recent recipient of the Kaling Award. Our Chairman of the Board, Mr. Anthony Pierno. Ms. Risty Wood. Would you please stand? These folks, along with Tom, have provided leadership and direction for our college and are in large measure. I'm sorry. Bernil Schwartzmiller?
Thanks, Jim. Appreciate it.
I'm sorry, Bernil. Bernil, I can tell I won't be at that meeting next week.
Good thing you're on vacation.
These folks have provided tremendous leadership for our institution on the Hill, and to be congratulated. I'd like to introduce Sister Gregory Natty with over 40 years experience with the Marymount School, and she will give the invocation, and we'll follow that immediately with dinner.
Thanks a lot, Jim. Now, would you please just close your eyes and for a moment turn to God within. This evening, let us give thanks for all the wonders around us, remembering to make no mistake about this. All that is good, all that is perfect, is given us from above. So thank you, God, for our friends and for Tom's 19 years of guiding our Marymount family, and all those who share their goodness with us. Thank you for nature with its many wonders, the seasons, the rain for the crops and the flowers, all living things. Thank you for kind works, for praise, for our talents, for our skills, for learning and teaching, and particularly for hope in the future with a new leader. For all things, we thank you. At this time, we ask you to bless this food. May it be a source of spiritual and physical nourishment for us. Bless those men and women who have labored to provide it for our table. Bless us who are gathered here in your name, and in the name of Jesus and your most Holy Spirit. Amen.
ladies this evening. Can you all hear? All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. I'm honored to join you in paying tribute to Dr. Thomas Denver Wood on his retirement as president of Marymount College. My friendship with Tom began at Whittier College in 1946, shortly after the end of World War II. We have remained good friends. I don't know about after this evening, but over the years, and some of my most memorable moments have been with him. And I won't go into detail on that. Again, I am honored to assist in this program of tribute. You will receive some richly deserved praise, Tom. This will be a new experience for you. Finding volunteers wasn't easy, so Janet and I finally decided that if we promised some of your friends that when you spoke this evening, you would be limited to an absolute minimum of time at the microphone. They might be persuaded to attend, say a kind word or two about you. Well, you know, to our utter amazement, they overcame their initial reluctance after receiving this assurance and are joining us this evening to honor you. Where does one begin in summing up such a distinguished career? Born in 1924, young Tom Wood attended public schools in Long Beach and early on became a skillful musician, playing both the French horn and the cornet. At the same time, I don't know what that was, but at the same time, he became an excellent swimmer and sailor. One could see that his cultural and recreational interests were being formulated at an early age. If you're wondering where this brief introduction is leading us to, well, brace yourself, Thomas, for tonight, Thomas Denver Wood, this is your life.
Tom, do you remember the Silver Fox, Pete Archer, Roy Hosels, Herm Smith, and Vic Miller?
Tom, your friend and longtime acquaintance from Long Beach, Dick Miller.
My first encounter with Tom was right after World War II in 1948. While on summer vacation and training at the Colorado Lagoon during the summers, a lifeguard lieutenant by the name of Vic Miller, the Silver Fox, introduced me to this tall giant of a man. It was here at the lagoon that myself, Pat Keller McCormick, George Barlow, Ann Barkley, Dot Seeley, and a cast of hundreds came into contact with Tom as his position as an aquatic and recreational leader. It wasn't until June 1949 at a Red Cross aquatic school in Catalina that I really saw Tom put his talents to work, swimming, rowing, and his nightly study sessions. It was here that Tom taught me what officer's territory really was. I was a dedicated student at aquatic school, studying the art of first aid, standard Red Cross, and the instructor's course. I observed with great curiosity that the older, more mature students, such as Tom, were enjoying the island of Catalina, literally from sunup to sunset. They didn't even open a book to study. This was truly the test of a human endurance for Tom, and if he was really up to it. The leadership of such great names in the aquatic world, Herb Barthels, Pete Archer, Roy Hosels, Herm Smith, Vic Miller, guided Tom in his conquest through these aquatic skills and other skills. One day, Tom would be called upon to guide such young aquatic hopefuls such as Roy J. Miller, Dick Coleman, Ann Barkley, and Dottie into that wonderful officer's territory. It wasn't until years later that Tom and his family showed up on the shores of 68th Place on the peninsula in Long Beach that our friendship was rekindled. As a new teacher, working as a lifeguard in the summertime, and having a family that needed money, Tom encouraged me to teach his children to swim. We used the beach motel pool while the Woods enjoyed a free morning without kids in their rented bungalow, while I was working hard at $1.25 an hour. From sun fun days of clamming, of barbecuing at Polly Giacomitti's, this friendship of days gone by was reestablished and remains today as a permanent and fixed part of my life and my family's life. Who would have guessed that from this simple little swimming hole called the Colorado Lagoon and the island in the Pacific, Catalina, could the life of a young, naive teenager and eventually his family be so touched by this giant of a man from the sleepy lagoon?
Tom, you graduate from Long Beach Poly High School in June 1942, and on November 28, 1942, answered your country's call to duty by enlisting in the Army. World War II was upon us, and little did you realize that the next 3.5 years would be spent in the South Pacific, involved in some of the bloodiest engagements of World War II. The 37th Infantry Division, known as the Buckeye Division, became your home. Your initial taste of combat began in Guadalcanal in 1943. Attached to the Marine Raiders, you saw action in New Georgia, the attack in Bairoko Harbor, Emperor Augustus Bay in the Philippines. Highly decorated, you awarded our country's second highest decoration, the Distinguished Service Cross for bravery in combat, second only to the Congressional Medal of Honor. Additional citations included the Bronze Star, the Bronze Arrowhead, Philippine Unit Citation, Chinese Unit Citation, 4 Purple Hearts, the Combat Infantryman's Badge, in addition to numerous battle stars and ribbons. The war ends. You're home again and decide to enter Whittier College. Here you make many friends, some of whom are here this evening.
Tom, Dad always liked you best. He was an excellent judge of character, and without fear of contradiction, you were the biggest character he ever knew.
Tom, your close friend, Whittier College buddy, and a distinguished educator in his own right, Stan Corey.
The call came from the committee asking me to make nice with some comments about Tom. I was delighted and accepted readily. And then I thought about the word nice, and it brought my effort to a 5-week halt. I just barely made the deadline. What can I say? I remember back in '47, Tom wore out his '33 Chevy, and my '31 Chevy had quit. It was gasping its last breath. Under Tom's leadership, we went to Al Stoll's barn and transplanted his engine into my '31. It kept me on the road another 2 years, boiling all the way. I never did hear whether Tom's insurance company came through with the money for the missing engine. Then there was the time at the Golden Tee Resort in Morro Bay at an elementary administrators conference when, for reasons that I won't go into now, Tom knocked on the room door and said, "I need a place to sleep." I said, "Come in, Tom, this is a king-size bed, there's plenty of room." He looked at me and turned white as a sheet, pulled one blanket off the bed, curled up on the rug, and slept peacefully all night. In the morning, with some color back in his cheeks, he jumped up, showered, and went to the assembly hall to deliver a blistering breakfast speech to the assembled elementary principals on the vital topic of the virtue of putting some starch into their backbones. It was very well received. Tom, I'd like to thank you for being my best man and my best friend for what soon will be a half a century.
After enrolling at Whittier College, you had to find a place to live, and most important, find someone who can endure your gift of eloquence. There is another name for this talent, Tom, but with due regard for the sensibilities of our audience, I shall refrain from mentioning it.
Since we had an Orange Grove, Tom became a weed sprayer, smudger, truck driver. He was really dangerous behind the wheel, and quickly became a pseudo-horticulturalist.
Tom, your longtime friend, college classmate, landlord, and sometime employer, Al Stone.
I met this tall, thin guy in 1946. We were part of the huge wave of returning World War II veterans taking advantage of the GI Bill of Rights at Whittier College as freshmen. Defiant of the tradition of freshman hazing by upperclassmen, some of which was wearing beanies, entering Founders Hall by the back entrance, we had decided we were too old for this baloney. And of course, no one challenged Woody. We had several classes together, including Significs, Basic Communications, taught by Rena Grant, who questioned Tom's chewing gum in class. He said he wasn't going to stop, and he wasn't in grammar school. She asked him to come to her office after class, and Tom didn't back down. Soon we began to realize this guy had something. Yes, he had stood up for his rights, others' rights too. He had real leadership abilities, a real faculty for self-expression. Some say he can make a speech out of the flag salute. Never backed off a challenge, even if it was to his detriment. A great sense of humor, self-critical, and boy could he be stubborn. As a freshman, Tom decided he was going out for spring football practice. Coach Chief Newman decided to have practice before classes, so we had to be at the college before 6 a.m. Tom commuted from Long Beach, so I suggested he stay with us at the ranch during 3 weeks of practice. He stayed for 2.5 years. In the Tom Wood tradition, he charmed Anna, my mother, like he charms most women, and was like another son to her. I was a slow eater before Tom came to stay. Self-preservation, I became a fast eater. Our poor old dog no longer got any table scraps. This is the first time we had to buy dog food. Became part of the family. But he went too far when he shamed my brother and me into helping with dishwashing. Since we had an Orange Grove, Tom became a weed sprayer, smudger, truck driver. He was dangerous behind the wheel, and quickly he became a pseudo-horticulturalist. He knew every weed, everything. Tom was a fighter. Some of his college friends entered him into the Golden Glove tournament without his knowledge, under the pseudonym of Tiger Tom, fighting out of the Whittier Athletic Club. He was included in the official program which was displayed on the bulletin board at Whittier College. Tom feigned injury, bad trouble, no spawning. After Tom got his teaching credentials, he taught at East Whittier School as an 8th grade teacher. He was great with kids. Very shortly, the district was aware of his abilities, and he became vice principal, and soon after, the principal at Hillview School. An informant of mine mentioned the district administrator staff meetings where Tom who never is shrinking violent, but voices his opinion along with profanity to make a point. It was suggested a can be placed on the table at each meeting, and a quarter be placed in the can for each profane word. At the end of the month, Tom was the only donor. That ended the experiment. On an administrative softball team, he was right fielder, and because he couldn't see well when the ball was hit in his direction, it was the show of the night. What he lacked in execution was made up with heart and intensity. We still don't know if it was his poor sight or lack of coordination. After the game, though, he was always the first one ready to go to Waterfields for a beer. To quote an East Whittier informant, in spite of his size, naughty stare, booming voice, and questionable vocabulary, he was a pussycat and a lovable guy. The following note was the only one written by a district school principal thanking the administrator responsible for having the schools painted. And this is a Tom Wood original. This is to Don Sheeler from Tom Wood, 3/1963. You are an irascible, splenetic old man. You are sordidly avaricious as a custodian of the taxpayers' loot. You are too often inaccessible, and when this is not the case, you impose vicissitudes which causes one to wish that you were. However, with an acknowledgement of perversity of human nature, we love you. We know to give expression to this love through sincere commendations directed to various members of your staff for service rendered to us. Perhaps it is time then to get to the heart of the matter, the source of this beneficence. Although the fountainhead may be disguised in sackcloth of one who frequently recants his lot of the mourner's bench, at the mourner's bench. So then we do, with gratitude, thank you personally for your part in facilitating the beautification of Hillview by application of large amounts of PVA and oil-based. We compliment you also for retaining such a fine crew of painters. They are hardworking, skillful, pleasant co-workers, but let us not stray. You are responsible for it all. In fact, after all is said and done, you are a hell of a nice guy, a real sweetheart. It makes me blubber just to think about it. How about lunch soon? There are many colorful stories to be told about this unique guy. But to me, he will always be a wonderful, warm friend. I cherish that friendship of 46 years. And we do not see each other often enough, but when we do, it's easy and natural, as it always has been. Congratulations, Tom, for the outstanding contribution to Marymount and your most deserved retirement.
All right, Tom, life moves on. You marry and become the father of 5 children while devoting your time to a career in public education, which Al has just described.
Having a father as a war hero gives a kid a lot of leverage with his friends.
I goofed here, your son Brad, who I'm sure has some interesting things to say about you.
Thank you, Unca Bunga. To me, you are a man to be looked up to, admired, and one to pattern my life after. At 4 or 5 years old, your size alone was enough to get my attention. With a booming voice, I remember following you everywhere. Even while you were mowing the lawn, I could be found 6 inches behind you, matching you stride for stride. And as was mentioned, having a father as a war hero does give a kid a lot of leverage with his buddies. At 8 or 9 years old, I used this for ill-gotten gains. Mainly power and prestige. It worked. 6 or 7 Purple Hearts, other medals of distinction, letters of commendation. Yes, lots of leverage there. I used to love to hear those war stories over and over again, until I'm sure you were tired of telling them. Later in life, I became a merchant seaman, thanks to our own John Lane. So now we have father and son sitting in a bar swapping sea stories and war stories. What a combination. Lots of lying going on there. To survive a war, especially after being wounded so many times, is incredible. As a local sportscaster says, I'd rather be lucky than good, and if you're both, watch out. Well, Dad, in life, you've been lucky and good. And as you start to hoist your sail this evening, I would like to say that coupled with your love of life, watch out. You've only just begun, Keed. Early on the job training. One of my fondest memories was one of early on the job training. Picture it, Redwood City, California, 1967, my first job. A paper route for the San Francisco Chronicle. Dad would dutifully get up at 4 or 5 a.m., go to the front door and grab the 50 or 60 papers. He would fold them and neatly stack them into the back of the 61 wagon. He'd wake me up, hand me a cup of coffee and the keys, and as I would drive, he would deliver while running behind the vehicle. We may have very well invented the car delivery system. Now that's what I call easy money. And we did kill 3 birds with 1 stone. I learned how to drive at 14, Dad got a good workout, and I more than satisfied my job requirement. Every paper was porched. Yes, we made a good team. That was the beginning of a beautiful friendship. We made a good team no matter what we did. In work and in play, in happiness and in sorrow, we always and will always do it together. A good disciplinarian. We 5 kids always knew our boundaries. They were very well defined. But at times, there was memory loss on the part of dear old Dad. Sometimes, as he was targeting one of us for an indiscretion, he would get a little too excited. He couldn't quite get our names right, and more often than not, he would belt out every name before he got to the right one. It would sound something like this. Les, Russ, Brad, Greg, darn it. Meredith, get in here. Darn it. Gourmet chef. An excellent cook with imagination and patience. 2 essentials in the culinary arts. However, sandwiches were something else altogether. For some reason, Dad, you felt that we liked special concoctions that perhaps you enjoyed. He made our lunches throughout our school careers. We all brown bagged it. Picture it, Redwood City, 1969. It's lunchtime. I slowly open my brown bag with guarded anticipation. I observe a large object wrapped in foil. I push the fruit aside, pull out the foiled object, and begin to carefully unwrap it. My worst suspicions are realized. It is the mother of all sandwiches. As I fold back one corner of the wheat bread, more is revealed. A layer of mayonnaise, peanut butter, relish, a slice or two of cheese, and maybe a thinly sliced banana. Wow. Later, we kids would convene at high school, brothers and sisters, and inquire as to what the others had that day. I must admit, during those afternoon basketball practices, I could run faster and jump higher than any of my teammates. And I do attribute this to those sandwiches, which I did eat. However, today I'm strictly a peanut butter and jelly man. So, as a symbolic gesture of my gratitude, I present to you a couple small tokens. As being a major player in my life, I would like to present you with this cap, which is inscribed Major Dad. And as well, as we all have human frailties, to me, you were the perfect father. And I have a shirt which echoes that sentiment, which is inscribed, Woods, Perfect Dad. And last but certainly not least, the mother of all sandwich plans. For you to create to your heart's desire in your spacious kitchen the sandwich of your dreams.
Hi, Tom. Now your lovely wife Shirley becomes the center of your life. Her children become an integral part of your life, and your influence on them continues to grow. I, Tom, am here to share in this celebration is your devoted stepdaughter, Barbara Cashin.
I was supposed to show that picture to you first, Tom, but I messed this up. This is my brother, Bill Cashin, picture of him, and he wrote the message to Tom that I'm going to deliver right now. So we wanted you to see what he looks like, and he also wanted me to deliver a disclaimer that he had nothing to do with having this picture put up here. My mother and I arranged all of that. Dear Tom, congratulations from all of your admirers in Pennsylvania. I wish I could be there to celebrate with you now that you are moving out of one way of life and into something new. I really have some great visions of you already. I can see you barbecuing your famous pepper steaks on that new high-tech grill of yours, swimming to the pier and back each day in Alamitos Bay, or better still, cruising to Catalina Island or the San Francisco Bay in your new Grand Banks. Sounds glorious, and I'd love to join you. Whatever you do, the point is to live by the rule that Lucy lives by. Lucy is Bill's 9-year-old daughter. Not to worry, but to enjoy yourself. Truth be told, I'm excited for you, and I can't wait to see what you come up with next. I've known you, Tom, all of my adult life, just as all of my sisters have. We have always admired you and looked to you for example, and it hasn't gotten any of us into too much trouble just yet. One of your great strengths that we have been able to see is your resilience. You have the amazing ability to change and to adapt without compromising that part of your nature which should not or cannot be changed. I don't know if you recall, but some years back, you gave me a book titled The Dynamics of Change. On the inside cover, you wrote that my life would be full of change and promise. Well, I offer that advice back to you now. Seize the change and the promise will follow. In other words, go for it. I know that I'm changing tack now, but as is customary on these occasions, I'd like to tell a little anecdote. It's from the time that Deborah, and that's Bill's wife, and I met up with Mom and Tom in Berlin for a few days early in 1988. Few people know that from Berlin we took a short trip to Rome to see the Vatican. And being an ex-cab driver, I was elected to drive. I managed without incident until I unwittingly parked in the reserved space of some high church official. We weren't sure what that sign said because it was in Polish. The Swiss guards promptly arrested all four of us, and well, things went downhill from there, as you can imagine. We were mistaken for a ruthless gang of terrorists and ordered to be executed at dawn. Later, as we were sitting in our cells wondering over our sorry fate, the Pope in his mercy sent the captain of the guard to tell us that we would each be allowed one final request. So first, he asked Deborah what would be her final request. She promptly answered that all she wanted was to finish her doctoral dissertation, and then she'd be happy to face the firing squad. Well, that sounded like a real safe bet to me. Next, he asked Mom. Mom said that she would like a word processor in order to produce a revised itinerary and a complete list of all those who should be notified of the change of our plans. Bill wrote this. Then he asked Tom. Tom said that he would like to have an audience with Pope John Paul to debate with him the concept of the infallibility of the Pope. Whereupon I asked the captain to please, please, please shoot me now, rather than make me listen to Tom argue that point one more time. Well, by some miracle, we all survived. And it's lucky for me because it allows me the great pleasure to say on behalf of the entire Cashin clan, East Coast as well as West Coast, I wish you the best of luck. Never fear and remember, if all else fails, give them a lip fake. With utmost admiration, Bill and family.
Tom, after leaving the East Whittier School District, you venture across town and become the first executive secretary of the Montebello Teachers Association. After a successful year of service, other duty calls. You become the executive secretary of the California Elementary School Administrators Association. Your travels cover the length and breadth of our state, where your speaking skills become your stock in trade.
If I was asked to submit an article to the Reader's Digest on the most unforgettable character I ever met, that person would have to be Thomas Denver Wood.
Unfortunately, Tom, Lee Hawkins, your good friend and past president of the California Elementary School Administrators, couldn't be here because of illness in the family, and he asked me to read this tribute to you. I have many fond and cherished memories of Tom Wood. Tom was the most creative leader I have ever known. Not only was he a courageous creative leader, but also one who possessed the knowledge of what it is and understood the essential ingredients necessary for its practice. If I was asked to submit an article to the Reader's Digest on the most unforgettable character I have ever met, that person would have to be Thomas Denver Wood. Tom was not only a creative leader, but also a very creative orator. He could come up with some of the most elaborate and colorful descriptions of situations, especially those that were annoying to him. I recall vividly a situation during the 1969 school year when Tom, the executive secretary for the California Elementary School Administrators, was called on the carpet by the board of directors of that association for his selection of descriptive words when reacting to a disturbing situation. You see, the board felt that the #1 perpetual ambassador for the elementary administrators, their executive secretary, should project a more somber image. Well, Tom, then and there, decided to give language improvement his best shot. Shortly thereafter, during a gathering of the board at the Casa Munros in Monterey, Tom, being sensitive to the desires of others, reacted to a particular situation that he found totally untenable to himself and the association by saying, quote, "Now wouldn't that really frost your peach crop?" Everyone there came totally unglued. When the uncontrollable laughter finally subsided and the people regained their composure, the one board member who had pushed the hardest on the issue of Tom's language said, in effect, "Tom, please return to your old style. We never would be able to survive this one." In addition, his wife, Jean, said, "Hi, Tom. Over the many years, you have often been the topic of conversation for Lee and me. My memories of you remain filled with respect, fascination, and much fondness. In friendship, always, Jean." All right, now, Tom, after leading CESA for a number of years, you accept the position of provost at your alma mater, Whittier College. It is here that your love for private higher education and your commitment to the liberal arts and humanities is renewed.
Tom was getting his master's degree at Whittier College in 1952-54 when I was a freshman and sophomore.
Tom, let's welcome Bruce Martin, Executive Secretary of the Whittier Chamber of Commerce and an old buddy of yours.
Let me just say, I waited 50 years for this. I never thought I would be here and Tom would be there. I have known Tom since 1952. That's 50 years. Actually, when I think about that, Tom, I was not a math major, so it's 40 years. But I'll tell you, ladies and gentlemen, it feels like 50 years of friendship, warm, and a personal relationship. Tom was getting his master's degree at Whittier College when I was a freshman and sophomore. I will never forget being horrified with a freshman basic comm class. Some of you Whittier College students remember that. I thought the world was coming to an end. I left class, and the first person I ran into was Tom Wood. He had that friendly smile, that warm handshake, and he said, "Okie," which was my nickname, "you are going to make it, hang in there." In my sophomore year, they came up with this course, British Civilization, 5 units. After attending that, I was shell-shocked. As I walked across the Whittier College campus, I ran into Tom again. Tom encouraged me, supported me, and personal interest in me, and I actually graduated from Whittier College, which I'm very proud of, and played a little basketball. Then there was a cool evening in November of 1956 that Tom and I have talked about many times. The Whittier poets traveled to Eagle Rock to play Occidental College. George Allen, who most of you know, was the head coach at Whittier College. Jack Kemp, who is now President Bush's cabinet member, was the quarterback for Occidental. Tom Wood, Bill Maramoto, who was here tonight, Tex Baker, and myself attended that game. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you should have seen Tom coaching George Allen. Every play he had something to say. And the Poets won 34-14. When I saw Jack Kemp in Washington, he said, "I will never forgive Tom Wood for that great coaching job." Tom is a lifelong friend of the Martins. He is a true professional in his field, and as you all know, an excellent college president. Tom Wood gave my daughter Pepper, who's here this evening, the same personal attention, and I'm proud to say that she's a 1989 graduate of Marymount College. That only cost me $25,000. But Tom, it was worth every penny of it. And I want you to know, last Sunday, Pepper got her BA from Chapman University, and Tom Wood was directly involved in 2 Martins getting their degree. So on behalf of the Martin family, Tom, we want to thank you. To the Board of Trustees of Marymount and your chairman, Tony Perino, is here, I say, good luck. You've got some big shoes to fill. But Sally, Pepper, and I wish Tom and Shirley the very best in retirement. We're looking forward to seeing them down the road. Best of luck to both of you.
Once again, Tom, your career path changes directions. It is the spring of 1973, and you applied for the presidency of Marymount College. While on your way to the interview, you stopped by my place of employment. We had a Coke and discussed your chances of becoming the first lay, that is, the non-religious president of the college. Remember the comment you made? You said, quote, "If you're going to hunt for Moby Dick, you better take along a jar of tartar sauce." That's confidence.
I moved to Texas to try to avoid further dealings with you. But you found me there, and I'm able to say that I'm still the lawyer of choice for you whenever you need someone to review and comment on something that can't be charged.
Tom, here all the way from Houston, Texas, to share this moment is your good friend and chairman of the Board of Trustees of Marymount, Mr. Tony Perino.
Waiting 16 years, and probably 40 years for this. Tom, trying to remember the good things about you is indeed a challenge. Fortunately, we do go back about 42 years, and over that length of time, I let Bruce Martin calculate that. Over that length of time, you should be able to find something positive to say about almost anybody. Even you, I thought, when I started gathering my remarks. You need a hook to get rid of me here. Fortunately, the planning for this event started many months ago. Thus, when one has 4 or 5 months to scan his memory of the last 42 years, it should become fairly simple to find some good things to say about somebody, I thought 5 months ago. Over the past 5 months, the preparation of these remarks has become an obsession. But Dick Reese is a patient man. He suggested I send my remarks when completed to Janet Bremseth, who was given the responsibility of compiling them into a souvenir volume for you. Some souvenir that must be, kind of like Ilsa Cook being given a lampshade during her last days at Spandau. Actually, I'm not being fair. There are a lot of good things we can say about you. Just ask Shirley. You're very good at dusting the tops of tall cabinets for just one reason. To your credit, you have found your way from Long Beach to Marymount almost every workday for these many years. And before that, you made it all the way from La Habra to Marymount with almost the same remarkable consistency. So just like that, we have 2 or 3 very positive things to dwell on. But let me move on to what it's been like to work for and with you since you became president of Marymount. Even before I became a trustee of this fine institution, you had given me major responsibilities. You called me one day when the campus was still at the Hawthorne site to tell me that you were going to lease a part of the campus to a group that was soliciting members for the purpose of forming a tennis club, building the clubhouse courts, and you wondered if I'd mind reviewing the ground lease. I told you that might pose a conflict since I was considering joining that club. You said you'd send it to me anyhow, then we could talk if I decided not to join. So you sent it the next day. My worries about a conflict disappeared rapidly when I noted you had signed and delivered the lease 2 weeks earlier. But still a master of timing and the use of legal services. I I moved to Texas to try to avoid further dealings with you, as I said, but you found me. And I'm still a lawyer there of choice for you to review and comment not only on something that can't be charged, but as you found from the lease experience, something that can't be changed. You've been the man of the hour for Marymount since you first entered the presidency. Cool in crisis, a master of rhetoric, profound thinker, superb speaker, a consensus administrator who nonetheless asserts himself and makes things happen. Damn, I'm reading from the job description for your successor. Marymount has really weathered many severe crises during your excessive, I think that's probably supposed to be extensive, tenure at Marymount. Among the questions you decided, should they sell snow cones in the snack bar? Should they mow the lawns during class hours? Should weekend college meet on Wednesday? Should they house students in the RPV City Hall? Should the cafeteria have a 1 or a 2-hour cocktail hour during finals? Should finals be waived so that students can spend the time brushing up on their surfing and tanning in order to make their summer vacations more meaningful? And of course, these are just the issues that didn't come to the board and which you disposed of all by yourself, using your usual formula of 2 yeses followed by a no. You even managed to modify the formula to cope with the question of the cocktail hour, which you saw right off didn't lend itself readily to a yes or no answer. Such brilliant administration was merely the groundwork for the real issues, the things that you brought to the board. Those included some real crisis-oriented things. Should we close the school? And should we buy a house for the president? Should we build rice paddies on the hillsides? Or in the alternative, just sell the campus to the Japanese? Should we do a budget for next year? Should we increase enrollment? Should we decrease enrollment? Should we invite the Archbishop for lunch? Should we invite the Cardinal for lunch? Should we subdivide the campus and sell timeshares? Should we hire Pat Riley to succeed Paul Westhead as basketball coach? Should we institute a Division I football program? We probably would have followed your recommendation to go big time into college football, but for the fact that we had before us at the same time your recommendation that we return the campus to its original status as a women's institution. But lest anyone think you might be inconsistent in your views, nothing could be farther from the truth. I first knew you in college when I was a freshman and you were a big man on campus, serving as chairman of the student exec. And then, as you have consistently through the years, you were of the view that the admissions committee needed to be more aware of the significance of feminine pulchritude in evaluating the potential of female applicants. Of course, the world has changed, and Ken Mayer has managed to overcome your somewhat narrow and chauvinistic views in this matter. But believe me, the world can now know that your single greatest regret is that you didn't become director of admissions at the Dallas Cowboys cheerleaders academy. That kind of unswerving consistency has stood you in good stead with the board. When we had barely 100 students, only the most loyal and dedicated faculty, just a handful of board members, and then you told me most of the good ones resigned because they were too prominent and important to be associated with a failure, and that's how they came to ask me to join the board. And we had a huge budget deficit both in the then current year and as projected for the next year. You consistently, then as now, solved the problem with a single recommendation to the board. Let's just raise tuition. So we did it, and we did it the next year and the year after. Eventually it got so high that parents began to think they couldn't afford not to send their kids here. After all, their images as affluent and important people on the Hill hinged on it, just like the need to own a Beamer, and enrollment began to swell. That, folks, is all there was to it. Marymount's survival and success, like Tom's unswerving view of feminine pulchritude, depended solely and completely on his consistent belief that the only way to overcome a deficit was to charge more. I think he secretly plans to run for Congress after his retirement. Some people believe that Marymount's success has been due in large part to your persistence, your creativity. Some people think your ability to bring in the best people and to get the most out of them has been a factor. Some think your use of your vast experience as an educator to target both the mission and the market for Marymount. Some think it's your abilities to bring consensus out of chaos and to motivate faculty, administrators, and students. Some think it's your instinctive knowledge of how to cut your losses, if any, your pride in the institution, the high regard in which you are deservedly held by your staff, the faculty, the student body, and the board. Some think it's your deeply held convictions about the role of higher education and what makes an institution a great one. And some think it's your profound and thoughtful philosophy of education and your dedication and commitment to all of the above. Well, it pains me greatly to have to tell you, they're all right.
Thanks, Tony. Hi, Tom. You are now the president of Marymount College, the culmination of a distinguished career. You learn early on that besides leadership skills, it also helps to have a good sense of humor. In the beginning, you encountered serious problems of declining enrollment and financial resources that would challenge your administrative skills.
It's not easy to find a first-rate college president like you, Tom, especially when you're hiding.
Say hello to your longtime friend and colleague who remembers those early years, Tom Earl Roddy.
I first met Tom when the Dead Sea was still just very seriously ill. It had been an especially difficult year financially for Marymount when I first had to track Tom down. Marymount had recently moved to the new campus. Enrollment was up to 4, I think, which was 1 under your projection for that year. And I was working for, what, $3.80 an hour, a little bit more than you were making. I was there first. Funding for the division projects and the new classes was disappearing faster than the dry donuts at the snack bar. Sorry, sister. And like a lot of the faculty members who had viewed Marymount at that time as an opportunity to answer the challenge of the 60s, with new projects, new classes, new ideas, I had a pet project, and it was the new television production course. It was dollar intensive, Tom used to say. It's very dollar intensive. He used to say it needs a lot of new equipment. It's very dollar intensive. What the hell are you talking about? I thought it was an education. It's in finance. It was very expensive equipment that only he could authorize the purchase of. Did I end in a preposition? No, I didn't. And I'd been in hot pursuit of Tom for a number of weeks because I needed new cameras and new monitors and new lights. But Tom was hiding. God, he did that well. Probably still does. And I'd arrive at his office unannounced, hopes of catching him off guard, but I never did. And because somehow he always knew that I was coming. He had like operatives in the field. And I'd walk in there and he'd be suddenly called away. He knew fiscal responsibility. So when all of my pursuits failed, I began to wait in the restroom near his office, the men's room. And just about the time the rumors were more than I could stand, I realized that he had found an alternate solution that I didn't even want to think about. He was always very clever about alternate solutions. Then one night I was teaching this class, the very one that needed all the equipment and all the money, and a student ran into the class and said, "My God, I got great news." I said, "What is it?" He says, "Tom Wood's working late in his office." Can't be. Sure enough, he was. Devilishly clever of you. But it was a tactical error. It was the wrong night. I was teaching that night just down the hall. And I'm sure that you remember that I stormed into your office and held him hostage behind this silly little desk that he has, this little semicircular thing. Looks like a bric-a-brac or something. You can see his legs through it. I hate that desk. It never transmitted the kind of power I was going to see from the president. Just his socks. I used to sit there and look at his socks. Beg for money. You still got that desk, Tom? Yeah. Is it going with you? Devilishly clever. So I stormed into his office and I held him hostage behind that silly desk. And I said, "You must remember, I threatened to quit if I didn't get the money." You remember that? You remember that? I threatened to quit if I didn't get the money. I certainly remember how long it took you to think about that. As I waited, looking at his socks, wondering what I'm going to do next. But as usual, his decision was the right one. It was in the favor of the students, it was in the favor of the college, it was in favor of the curriculum. I knew I had him when I found him. You just had to find him. And he sent me off into the world after my teaching career ended, after 18 years. Somewhat after I got the money, by the way. And I thought, you know, when I leave Marymount, I mean, it was nice in Marymount, but when I leave Marymount, I'm going to go out in the professional world, and I'm going to play with the big boys the way it's really done, about fast lane. And I found out, Tom, that the real world needs a hell of a lot more guys like you. Because they can't find it with both hands. And I'm afraid to threaten to quit. So I just want to say thank you very much for everything you taught me at Marymount, which was a lot. And I hope you enjoy the here and now.
Thank you, Earl. Now, with the assistance of a dedicated staff and board of trustees, excuse me, you managed to right the ship and give it direction. You moved the campus from the Marineland area to its present site. There is much work to be done before Marymount grows into the institution we know today.
I'm back. So much has happened to our small college on the Hill that it becomes difficult to encapsulate Tom's contributions in such a brief time.
Let's welcome Mr. Jim Reeves, the Dean of Administration at Marymount College.
It's a distinct pleasure to represent my colleagues at Marymount College in honoring Tom Wood as he sails into retirement. So much has happened, as I said, on the Hill and our small college, and it becomes difficult to encapsulate all of his contributions, so I won't attempt to. However, in bidding Tom farewell, I've made every effort to represent my colleagues' feelings about his departure. In doing so, I have asked everyone to respond to the question, you know it's time to retire when? So, a la David Letterman's top 10 list, David Letterman comes on after Johnny Carson. Yeah, be a little late for you. These are the top 10 reasons we know it's time to retire, Tom. The number 10 reason, we build a new student union, Tom, and the admissions office wants to limit your exposure to tours of the dish room. Number 9, numerous staff have requested the use of your college automobile for summer travel. It's time to retire when visiting parents innocently comment while passing your office that it's nice to have a library, it's nice to have a learning center, but a wax museum is a real plus. You look so animated, Tom. It's time to retire when the life drawing class wants you to pose with your clothes on. And the fashion merchandising class wants you to guest lecture on the mix and match possibilities of your seersucker suit. It's time to retire when there's a VIP luncheon and Rosemary serves you leftovers. It's time to retire when our most renowned security officer has been trying out your office chair. And no one is discouraging him. Tom, it's time to retire when your ability on the racquetball court resembles Jonathan Winters wielding a butterfly net. Tom, it's time to retire when the business office will no longer cash your check. Just in case. Tom, you know it's time to retire, the number 2, when you come to work one morning, your parking space has been converted to a handicap space. And finally, the number one reason, and this had a lot of votes, is, Tom, it's time to retire when Ross Perot calls looking for a running mate that has been successful despite having no plan and no vision. On a more serious note, I join my colleagues in thanking you, Tom, for the opportunity to go along for the ride, and as your vision of being the best lower division learning laboratory in the West has been realized. On a day just a few weeks ago, we again shared some bright and shining moments with students and parents who reveled in their accomplishment, a college degree. In those moments, we became again secure in the thought that the course you've set is the correct one, and the rewards have been well worth the sacrifices. Tom, go well, stay well, and don't forget where we are.
Tom, as in any successful educational organization, its greatest legacy are its students. The success of Marymount alumni in making the transition to four-year schools reflects great pride and honor. They are fully prepared to meet the challenges and opportunities that lay ahead.
I was walking down the hall and I shouted out, "Hey, gorgeous!" He immediately turned around and gave me a hug.
Here's your friend and president of the Marymount Alumni Association, Christine Moltari.
I remember the first time I spoke to Tom Wood, and I had never been formally introduced to him. I heard him speak in small groups with students and watched him interact. And I was kind of anxious to meet this man. So I wasn't sure what to call him, and I was walking down the hall and I said, "Hey, gorgeous!" And he immediately turned around and gave me a hug. And I remember explaining to him that my father had passed away when I was little, but he reminded me of my dad. Not only in his physical appearance and gestures, but in attitude and graciousness towards others. Tom Wood has been like a father to me, not only to me, but to many of the Marymount alums. When I was asked to speak to represent the alums, I found it very difficult to write it all down. So I took the liberty to call, and I did call many, many alums, and asked them to describe Tom in 1 or 2 words or a phrase. And here are some of the words and phrases that the alums used to describe you, Tom. Bear with me. He disliked computers and liked the personal touch. There's nobody like him. He always had an open door and was willing to listen. The fatherly type, a truly caring individual. He was always concerned about the future of his students. He was cool, warm, and humanistic person. Cares very deeply for humanity, and he wanted the best for everyone. An interesting and knowledgeable man. Stoic. He always had a smile, a good sense of life. He loved life. I've seen him grieve with students when things didn't work out. He has taught preschoolers to swim. From the youngest to the oldest, he always cared. He liked to laugh, always had words of encouragement. He was rugged yet gentle, kind of the Clint Eastwood type. Very charismatic, poised, genuine, excellent speaker. He let each person grow and their minds develop, allowed everyone to have ideas and be an individual thinker. Never met a principal, president, or administrator who would put on an apron and cook up a barbecue. Very friendly, approachable, and he believes ability is the goal of education. When I was speaking to the alums, we all had some common thoughts. One, how lucky we were to know or even speak to the president of a college. Two, he treated us like he really wanted the best for us, like we were one of his own. And three, Marymount will never be the same without him. Well, I know that all the things that have been quoted tonight are true, and you have been like a father to us all, and how lucky you have been. Most fathers pray that their children will go to college. You've been able to see all your children graduate. We will be eternally grateful to you, Tom Wood. Your compassion, thoughtfulness, and goodwill towards others has taught us all to love a little, give a little, and laugh a lot. It is true your giving and your giving that we have all benefited. Thank you so much for all your dreams and courage, and thank you for your visions. We will miss you, and we love you.
Hi, Bob. You know, we censored your ideas once. You still insist on being on the program. Now, what do you want?
When I first came to Marymount, Tom Wood took me aside and said, I got a few things to tell you about how to get along here. One of them is that you never put yourself in a situation where you don't have some kind of rebuttal. So I have always have a few thousand words with you. I knew they'd send some flunky out here to try to stop you. So I'd like to start right here with what Tom told me the last word is.
You're very articulate.
When I came to Marymount, among all these little instructions Tom gave, he says you can get away with anything that you want to give this place as long as you do a little class. What you're about to see has about as little class as anything. We often wonder what goes on in the day in the life of a president. You're talking about his life 1,000 years ago or whatever. What happens every day? So we did a little research, and this is what we came up with. It doesn't take very long because he has a fairly short day. So we'll see what we can. Are you guys ready? This is the get it together at the last minute.
No, I don't want to be Tom. You don't wear glasses.
I'm going to talk. guy that just got out of the car.
Oh, that's Dr. Wood.
Doctor? I thought the doctor was only here on Thursdays. I got this rash.
No, not that kind of a doctor, dummy. Although I hear he has kept this place alive and well for a long time.
Boy, he sure is tall.
Hi there, students. Good morning, Joe. Good morning, Janie.
Hi there, big guy. Where the heck have you been? The phone's been going nuts.
Well, I had to go to this city council breakfast. And Judy, I've been meaning to speak to you about something. I really think you should show me a little more respect, especially when people are around.
You got it, dude. Oops.
Oh, that's better. So who's been on the phone?
Well, Mrs. Knight called and said she knows that you have been feeding those peacocks X-Lax and they have been dumping all over her front porch. And you have your daily meeting with the deans.
Oh no, not the deans.
Yep.
All of them?
Yep.
All in the same room?
Yep.
Well, I need a few minutes to myself to get organized before I deal with that group. I'll be right back. Well, it's a heck of a thing when you gotta come in here to get a little quiet.
Hey, Tom, is that you?
Who's that?
It's me, Jim Reeves.
Oh, hi, Jim. How's it going?
Well, I don't know, Tom. I just got a call from the mayor. He said you told Sister Mercedes she could open a taco stand down on the lower field by the road. Now, Tom, you know Sister Mercedes isn't zoned for that.
Oh, geez, I forgot. Well, tell him to chill out and I'll take care of it. Jeez. By the way, Jim, you coming to the dean's meeting?
The dean's meeting? Not me. Not with all those people in the same room together. No.
It's Charles Dock.
Charles Dock, what's he want? He's supposed to be at a meeting.
He says he's been in this meeting for 3 days, and he wonders if you could get a substitute teacher for him. He says he feels a little like a gardener who backed into the lawnmower.
How's that?
He says he's gotten a little behind in his work.
Well, send him a sandwich and tell him to change his catheter. God, somebody's got to go to those meetings. I'm leaving.
Where are you going?
I'm going to a lunch meeting. Boy, do I love that SOS.
SOS?
Yep, that stands for stupid chip beef on toast.
SOS, chipped beef on toast. Oh yeah, he was in the service. I'll have to ask Andy what that means.
Judy, any calls?
Yes, the deans are waiting for you now.
Oh no, what do they really want?
Well, Dean Conley wants to know if she can have bareback riders and a trapeze act at the next graduation. And Dean Gosdecki wants to know if she can get rid of those 2 ditzy broads in her office. Some good help.
Tell her we can't afford good help.
And Dean Reeves wants to know if it's okay if Sister Mercedes opens up a yogurt stand out by the flagpole. Also, Bill Petak called and said they're looking for a new provost at USC and wondered if you were interested. He said something about getting rid of one dingling and needing someone to replace him.
Well, that about does it for me. I think I'll make my rounds. Maybe I'll drop in on John Regali and see if I can catch him fooling around with the money again. Then I'm going to get a sandwich. And then I think I'll go park my car sideways in Bevhart's parking place and see what Martin's going to write on my ticket this time. And then I'm going to go home. God, it's been a long day and I'm really tired and hungry.
Long day? He just got here, and all he did was go to the bathroom, hide from the deans, and eat. Boy, what a life these presidents have.
Thank you for that revealing, intimate look at the life of presidents. At this time, I'd like to ask the Chairman of the Board of Trustees, Tony Pierno, to step forward.
I had 3 pages that got lost, and I thought I'd do it over again. Tom Wood, in typical fashion, as the last major project during his tenure, and certainly far from the only, but the last in a long series, accomplished a major, you can call it a remodeling, but a reconstruction of the student union, and essentially the construction of what amounts to an all-new facility. That facility is a dream come true for the campus. It will serve as the core of the campus, the center of student life, and it will become undoubtedly the central part of the memories of future students and those that are now there as they reminisce about their days at Marymount. It's only fitting that that place that has become the core of the campus so quickly and will remain so for many years to come bear the most appropriate name, the Thomas D. Wood Student Union. To your head, I think they're going to call it the woodshed.
All right, now I'd like to call Ms. Christine Moltari, the President of the Alumni Association, to the platform, please. Christine?
About February this year, we had an alumni committee meeting, and we were sitting in this meeting, and Tom decided to come to this meeting. And he started giving us ideas and things about what we should do with the Today magazine. And as we're talking, we're saying, yeah, well, in the last Today we did that. We put alumni notes in. So he's thinking, how come I didn't see that in my Today magazine? Well, Tom, we were very sneaky the last time, and you didn't get the same Today magazine everybody else did. I know he went back to his office and he went back and looked for these pages we spoke about. But in the other Today, we had a part that had alumni notes that went back from 1968 to present. We did a survey of the alums and asked them to contribute suggestions and comments and things, and had a questionnaire and got everything updated. And along with it was a letter that started out like this. As many of you know, Dr. Thomas Wood, president of Marymount College, is retiring on June 30th this year. Dr. Wood has served Marymount for many years. His hopes and hard work have made many dreams come true. The Marymount community will be forever grateful to Dr. Wood. In the past, we have had many opportunities to have lunch and or dinner with Dr. Wood and his wife Shirley. On several occasions, he has expressed a great desire to go to the Caribbean. For a retirement gift, we, the Alumni Association, thought it would be wonderful to make his dream come true and send him and his wife to the Caribbean. It would be a special way to say thank you. So, Tom, we had the preschoolers at Marymount made this card for you and Shirley. And we have the original today for you, and a copy of the letter. And we have several catalogs on cruises to the Caribbean. And finally, a gift certificate for you to go whenever you want.
Thank you, Christine. I'd like to ask Mr. Anthony Nicetich to step to the platform now.
First of all, I want to apologize for becoming part of this program without any request from the chairman. But so I was procrastinating on whether or not to give this to Tom personally. But after listening to Ms. Moltari, I've come to the conclusion that we would like to say something to Tom Wood from our family. Because as you know, we have the restaurant down in San Pedro here. And since the opening day in February 14th, 1983, Tom Wood has been one of our most cherished customers. And I figured it out while I was sitting down at the table that he has eaten 1,350 peapod salads at Mrs. And he just asked me if we were going to give him a gift certificate, and I said, yes, as long as you limit it to peapod salad. But the family got together and we prepared a resolution or a proclamation, I don't know what they call it, but I'm going to read it to you because it's kind of indicative of the friends that Tom has met and has had over these past several years. This is the Nicetich family paid special tribute to Dr. Tom T. Wood, president of Marymount College. Whereas Dr. Wood dedicated his life to education and the humanities, leaving his mark as one of the premier educators of our time. And whereas Dr. Wood counseled Mr. N. on personal matters, instructed and set an example to him while a trustee on the Marymount College Board of Trustees. And whereas Dr. Wood was a devoted and dedicated patron of Nicetich's restaurant since its opening February 14, 1983 to the present. And whereas Mrs. N. has a special respect and soft spot in her heart for Tom's jovial and sincere friendship. And whereas all of the Nicetich family, Lucille, Josetta, Antoinette, and Tom, have their own special feelings, love, and respect for Dr. Wood. Now therefore be it resolved, and resolved we wish Dr. Thomas D. Wood a long, healthy, and happy retirement, success and solace in any newly chosen endeavor. Subscribed to by each member of the family the 6th day of June, 1992.
Thank you, Anthony. This time I'd like to call Mr. Frank Grant to the platform.
Well, Tom, I know it's customary to receive some type of timepiece, brass or gold or whatever at this stage of your career, but that not showing up, I worked on this bell for you, and I think it will help you organize your retirement whenever you want breakfast. It's for you to keep.
To say the least. At this time, Tom, in order to capture all of these tributes and the many kind things and the honest and truthful things said about the real you, Nedra Hunt of the College Relations Office has taken these tributes in printed form and compiled them, put them in a beautiful album, and this is for you to cherish and keep for the years to come. We're going to ring that bell after about 2 minutes.
That was lousy theater. Been given leave already, eh? Well, this is a wonderful party. I'm glad I was invited. I really didn't know much about it before tonight, other than there was to be a gathering of some kind, and at the time and place, and Shirley's rather closed-mouthed, which is welcome in our family. The reason for the gathering, I could only suppose might have something to do with my retirement. Perhaps a little bit. I hope not too much, because while I have gone from job to job over the years, I've always known that I was going from one stage to another to play a very small part in the business of education. The job of retirement, I don't know anything about. I'm not sure I'm going to like it at all. Maybe I won't even do it. I mean, Daryl Gates got away with it. But I really like the party, and I'll see you guys Monday. I have made some superficial answers to questions about what I'm going to do, so I'm just going to dispense with the matter of retirement and suggest that, yes, I would like to swim a bit and sail a bit more and travel a bit, garden, and do some painting with some of my case of new oils and my easel. Not the kind of painting you have in mind, Shirley, but when I announced my retirement to the college community, I suggested that I did not intend to, Brad, go gentle into that good night, but that I would rage against the dying of the light. I hope that wasn't perceived as something I did simply for its own sake. I simply wanted to continue to produce whatever I might and to lose no time as a lame duck. But this certainly is a celebration, and for my colleagues at Marymount, it's a celebration of a new day. And the old order changes, giving way to new, and we have new opportunities. I think with new and exciting leadership, opportunities to make great strides forward in ensuring the continued success of that which we're all devoted to, the little college on the hill. I'm truly excited about that, and I know we're going to issue a very, very warm welcome to Dr. Tom when he comes out and joins us we selected a fellow with the same name, kind of make it easy. Tommy Fadden is a delightful guy, and I just know I'm very excited about the future. I just truly am. And so we're celebrating that tonight, I think. And of course, it's obviously a celebration of friendship. Friends together tonight, enjoying one another's company. And of course, it's finally an opportunity for me to say thank you. Thank you so very much. And Shirley and I tender those thanks with all sincerity and complete affection. And I think I should begin by thanking the architect of this evening and all those who gave her such wonderful help and allowed us to have such a wonderful time. Janet, ready to go. And certainly to my family. And they're gathered here, several generations of them, some having come from far away, from Toronto, from Yucaipa, and don't ask where Yucaipa is, or these guys will get upset, from all around the basin, from San Francisco, and there was some difficulty, I know, in making those schedules, but they know they have my love, and I'm deeply in debt for their own love to me. And of course my colleagues, I suggested at graduation that they have shown me greatness and have allowed me to participate with them in an adventure sometimes regarded as a mission impossible, but they made it possible, and we together enjoyed success, and they know how I feel about them. And of course, among those colleagues are the religious of the Sacred Heart of Mary. They are truly my sisters. We've even fought sometimes. Haven't we, Gregory? But when I was in great need, they were always there, in full support and with their love. They indeed, as the founders of this great system of Marymount schools and colleges, do deserve our applause tonight. I had some words about the Board of Trustees, but their fearless leader really kind of changed my mind. I've worked for a board all of my professional life as a school person. I have never, nor I think have very many in my position, enjoyed the kind of Board of Trustees that it's been my pleasure to work for in these last 19 years. No one has had the kind of freedom, the daily freedom to operate a college as we who are charged with that responsibility saw fit. The lack of interference, absolutely never interfering in the business of the college, always supporting me, sometimes when I know I did not deserve that support. They're an absolutely remarkable group of people, devoted, loyal, without pay of any kind, sometimes not even much ego food, but they've always been there. They've always been true stewards of this great place that we call Marymount College, and I too applaud them. There are so many friends. I'm quite frustrated not to be able to stop and introduce to those of you with whom I work all the members of my family and all of these dear friends who have come tonight from so many far places. Old colleagues, Dottie and Gene Mills, former president of Whittier College. I must recognize them. They're leaving very early in the morning. Have asked me to give them a 4:30 call, violating my new clean speech policy. I'll be damned if I will. Bill Maramoto, and I just can't go on because there are so many, and I would do all of you a disservice if I just stopped and went through that list of folks. But I can say that this is a celebration of friendship, and it's interesting. Friendship doesn't seem to grow carefully attended. It's all rather haphazard. We work together and we eat and drink together, and we cherish our absurdities and outrageously impose upon one another's patience, and suddenly awake to realize what's happened. Without knowing it, we've become friends. We seem to be able to close our eyes about one another's faults, and there's something rather effortless about that, isn't there? It's kind of like a cat purring. Friendship seems to dissolve barriers and loosen constraints, and one gets the feeling that we truly understand one another, that we truly trust one another. You know, just half a word, a shrug, an incomplete sentence, and we've conveyed a meaning because we've memories of the same times, some of the same places, some of the same events, the trials that we've endured together. We have the same mode of thinking, I think, and we're comfortable together, and you make me very comfortable tonight. We've accepted one another's wrinkles and deformities, and they don't hurt anymore. So I thank all of you here for allowing me some room in your lives, a place to know that I've been to some degree accepted, and that you have indeed given to me, to Shirley, riches which will never be exhausted. I thank you for that. No, I haven't forgotten. I haven't forgotten Judy and Shirley. I think many of you who have enjoyed the kind of position which has been mine have been fortunate if you have had a partner like Judy Capani. She's been a confidant, sometimes corrector of some of my dispositions toward excess, a dear friend, and a complete professional. And I love you very much, Judy. As for now, Shirley, you evoked in me a memory of a time and place about which you know nothing. The Quaker campus in about 1946-7, and Redwood in a state of ubiquitous disrepair, sitting in the middle of that campus, and a class in English literature. And someone remembered Rena Grant, and Rena Grant was my professor, fresh with a PhD from University of California, Berkeley, and I imagine experiencing some of the same culture shock coming to that small, intimate campus nestled against the Whittier Hills that some people experience coming from larger institutes to our little place on the promontory overlooking the Pacific. But she was good, and she led us through the literature, including Browning. And I remember one poem in particular, Rabbi Ben Ezra. And there were some lines in Rabbi Ben Ezra that didn't mean much to me then. And they mean a very great deal to me now. And I use them surely in an appeal to you. Grow old along with me. The best is yet to be, the last of life, for which the first was made. Are you up to that, girl? I do love all of you. Thank you very, very much for this wonderful evening. Thank you.
Just a few closing remarks. I would like to second Tom's tribute to Janet. Janet and I consumed countless gallons of coffee at that fine restaurant on 25th and Western San Pedro. I'm sorry, Anthony, we tried, it was you or them, but they went out. Their coffee's cheaper. But Janet is, I can't tell you, she's a super gal. She was a producer, prompter, director, organizer of the evening's activities. And Janet, thanks again. The Book of Mementos, I'd like to mention again to Nedra. Thank you, Nedra. It's a beautiful volume, and I to conclude, finally, on behalf of all of us here this evening, a big thanks for allowing us to share the memories of a remarkable life and career with you and your family. You have touched the lives of so many students, friends, and colleagues, and for this, we thank you. These brief tributes are eloquent testimony to your profound influence. Someone once said that there are two purposes in life. The first is to discover your gifts, and the second is to use those gifts. There's no doubt, my friend, that you have fulfilled these requirements. You will be succeeded, but never replaced. We love and respect you. God bless you and your family. I'd like to ask Sister Antoine to come to the platform. Sister Ann.
We started this lovely celebration giving thanks for all the wonders around us. I think it's quite proper to close the same way, with a prayer of thanksgiving.
Beautiful, yeah, I got it.